I don't think that Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, and the rest of the Giants are getting the credit they deserve simply because they're in the same division as this dude. But honestly, they're pretty dang good.
Jones, there's Barkley in the open field. Oh, what a move! Saquon Barkley!
Ever since the infamous boat photo, the Giants have struggled to get back to the place they used to be back when they were winning all their Super Bowls with Eli.
Stays on his feet, airs it out down the field. It is caught.
After drafting Saquon back in 2018, they were hoping to get a spark back in an offense that had been all but deflated. And although they played great, it's asking a lot for running back to carry a team, even if Saquon may have some massive thighs.
What do you mean by that?
Year after year, the team was not just underwhelming, but couldn't even get close to 500 in what was arguably the worst division in football. New quarterback pickup good old Danny Dimes was trying his best, but you can only do so much on a team that's going down like the Titanic every single year. With all this in mind, change was needed, and so after going through 3 different coaches in the 6 years after Coughlin left, the hope was that Daboll from Buffalo could turn the tides, and although to many it seemed like a far-off hope, so far it hasn't been all that bad. Considering how consistently bad New York has been for the greater half of the decade, expectations were pretty dang low on the Giants, especially considering the fact that Saquon had been dealing with injury problems the past 2 years.
At the end of this run, right there, push Barkley down and in pain immediately.
It's tough to get any momentum when your stars keep getting injured, so the fact that Saquon and Danny both got hurt last season made it extremely difficult on a team that was already struggling with depth. It seemed like every receiver, running back, and honestly every position player on the team got injured at one point or another. So any sort of consistency was asking quite a bit. And with that in mind, going into this year, the hope was that they could actually stay on the football field. Things started pretty dang well as Danny and Saquon put out the Titans by a solid 1 point to begin with a W. And following the nice win, the hope was that they could string another one against what was arguably a more flawed team in the good old Carolina Panthers.
Out again this week. Robbie Anderson nowhere to go. Gets a few. And then surrounded by blue shirts, the ball is out again.
It doesn't take a rocket scientist to guess that the Giants could take out a Sam Darnold-led Panthers team. But I mean, they did it, and we're now 2-0, which was not all too shabby a start considering that they were used to only winning 4 or 5 all year. Nothing against New York, but I don't think many thought that they would be able to keep up the same momentum throughout the rest of the year, especially after they took an L to the Cowboys.
Scored a touchdown last time they had it. Here's Lamb, one-on-one, lowers his shoulder.
Sitting at 2-1, many guessed that the season would go the same way that it does usually, but surprisingly enough, they were able to do their thing and string together a decent bit of wins in the process.
Barkley dancing around, he made room, and Barkley down to the 10.
4 wins back to back proved that the Giants were the real deal, as Danny and Saquon were on timing since both were actually able to stay healthy and play some good football. It was looking like the good times were finally here for a New York team that had been in the mud for so long. But let's just say that there were some bumps around the corner.
Play fake will look to throw, and Aiden Hutchinson picks it off.
It wasn't a complete collapse, but going from 6-1 to 7-5-1 in what was suddenly becoming the best division in the league made many forget just how impressive the Giants' turnaround had been. Both Danny and Saquon were able to stay healthy, and the team was actually making a legitimate playoff push. So after going through some rocky waters, the hope was that they could get back on the horse and finish off strong in order to keep the playoff hopes alive. And surprisingly enough, they have.
5, fake to Penny. And down the sideline, it's caught for a touchdown!
Winning 2 of their last 3 has earned New York a spot in a very confusing NFC. So although they will likely lose to Philly a few hours after me writing this, it really doesn't matter because they have already earned their spot. If you got this far into the video, it'd be radical if you could subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. But anyways, back to the video. For the first time in 7 years, the Giants are in the playoffs, and it's been behind some pretty solid play by Danny Dimes and Saquon the Stud. On one side, Danny has put up an impressive 3,200 and what seems like a bit low 15 touchdowns, but when you combine that with his over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground, it paints a clearer picture of why the Giants have done so well this year. But not only has just Danny been playing well, good old Saquon Thunder Thighs Barkley has also been doing his thing in his first full year that he's been healthy since 2018, as he's been able to nearly duplicate his rookie performance with this time over 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns, as he's been able to make his way back to the Pro Bowl for the first time since Guess one, his rookie year. Nice job.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Silliness aside, New York has put together a pretty solid year on both sides of the ball, with the stud in Dexter Lawrence holding down the fort for what has been a pretty decent Giants defense. We'll see how solid that defense is against teams like Minnesota, or Philly, or Dallas, or really whoever they match up against in the playoffs. But so far, they've looked good enough to win some big games.
Second down, going deep. Daniel Jones. Did he catch it?
Although New York has done well on both sides of the ball, and studs like Danny and Saquon have impressed. All year, they've been overshadowed by a division that suddenly went from the very worst to the very best overnight. Right now, the Giants are sitting at 9-6-1 and yet are in third place. So if that tells you anything, the competition is no joke. On one side, you have the on-fire Dallas Cowboys, who have been extremely dangerous as of late, with young talent in Micah Parsons and CeeDee Lamb helping them to one of the best seasons in the past decade. While on the other side, you have what many think could be this year's Super Bowl champs in the dominant Philadelphia Eagles, who have been able to become one of the best teams in football behind an MVP contender in Jalen Hurts and studs like Miles Sanders and A.J. Brown.
Pumps, Hurts going deep for A.J. Brown.
Considering that Washington has also been able to play well, it seems like the entire division has had a complete resurgence, which, as I've talked about beforehand, is a major reason why the Giants have flown under the radar after what has been an extremely impressive turnaround. Keep in mind that New York was 4-13 last year, and the very last in a division that everyone wrote off the page. But now they're looking to make a playoff run for the first time since Eli Manning did this.
And then he came out of the pile and just slings it. That's a great catch.
Considering that the team didn't have any Pro Bowlers last year, it's not much of a shock that they were missing the spark needed to win more than 4 football games. But thankfully enough, it's looking like that spark is back when they needed it most.
19-yard line, play action as Jones fires downfield. Slayton makes the catch!
Going into their first playoffs since 2016 may make it seem like an extremely tall task, but I think one of the main things that people are forgetting is that their new coach in Daboll has been there time and time again with Buffalo. He may not have made a Super Bowl, but if this guy didn't exist, the Bills probably would have done it a few years.
There's Mahomes to throw. Deep shot, left sideline, and it's caught!
Nonetheless, good old Dabby has experience where it counts, and so now many are wondering if it will be enough for a team that is full of guys who have never even smelled the playoffs before. And I mean, I don't know, but it's gotten them here, so it has to mean something. Considering how underwhelming New York has played for the greater half of the decade, it's going to be interesting to see how they will respond after a year like this, but I have a feeling that it could be the start of a brighter future for the Big Apple. As long as Danny Dimes, Saquon, and all the talent in New York stays healthy and is able to keep playing as well as they have, I think they could be one of the most interesting teams in the NFC, considering just how dangerous their young core is. Since both Danny and Saquon are only 25, they have at least a few more good years to play their best football. And although Thunder Thighs has already dealt with quite a bit of injuries, I think there are much brighter days ahead. Don't know if the brighter days will involve any big playoff runs, or if the Giants will just be pretty good. But no matter what, it would be much better than the extremely disappointing past few years.
If you don't have those two, Daniel Jones is not the guy, because he's not the guy that can make things happen for you.
If we look at this year and these playoffs, I think they could beat a team like Minnesota or maybe the Packers. But taking out a squad like San Francisco, Dallas, or Philly might be asking quite a bit. But anyways, what do you guys think? Can Danny Dimes and Thunder Thighs lead the Giants to a playoff run like Eli did a decade ago? Or are they still missing the pieces they need to win those kinds of games? Comment down below your thoughts. The future of New York may be as unpredictable as it gets, but behind Danny and Saquon, I think they're in pretty good hands. So it should be fun to see what they can do in the big games coming up ahead.
To Barkley, immediate penetration. What a catch by Saquon Barkley, and he's got the first down.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and God bless.
First swag Kazakage, leader of the hidden village of the D.